Several speakers have mentioned the impact and influence of the current crisis of COVID-19 and the role of green infrastructure or the changing maybe behavior of the consumers. And so I think green infrastructure originally was aimed more for a disaster that is related to floods, heavy rains and earthquakes, etc. That was the type of I think the disaster, but also this element of pandemic disease has also given a new dimension to this, to the role and function of the green infrastructure. Now, there were some anecdotes, there were some data, and I would like to ask about your conclusion on the COVID-19 and that there has been some increase in the demand from maybe the citizens or the consumers. Are there already some kind of data sets that is out in Austria or in Korea maybe that shows there was this kind of a change of behavior, change in demands during or compared to pre-COVID-19 period? I know it's a bit difficult. I'm not sure whether there's already a statistics available, but I was just wondering whether there are already some kind of data discussions ongoing on this COVID point. So the first point I suggest that we discuss is directly linked to your conclusions. So maybe Marianne, you could make some comments on the last on the last conclusion points on COVID-19.
Yeah, I have not brought this data, but a colleague at our university, she did a study on customer preferences, consumer preferences, and there they could clearly show a higher demand for local food after and during this first lockdown. So there is no data specifically on urban gardens, but we have data in the general population of Austria that there is an increasing demand for local food. This is on the one hand side some evidence, on the other side box schemes, so farmers delivering organic food to households in Austria. They have stopped accepting new customers because demand exceeds supply. So we also have evidence from those farmers directly selling organic food to customers. So there is also evidence here that there is a clear increase in demand. And yeah, the very exciting question is if this increased demand will stay after the pandemic, or if it goes back to the pre-pandemic situation. So this is something that we want to observe here in Austria.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Son, can you maybe make a brief comment on the situation in Korea?
Okay, thank you for all of the presenters. And I mentioned in my slide, I have no data on the specific data, but I feel and I heard the people would like to use more outside, especially in the park and some urban forest and urban agricultural land. Yes, and government agree with that. That is why the strategy of Korea New Deal is focused on the Green New Deal, make the green spaces, and one of the biggest part of the urban Green New Deal is ecosystem restoration in the urban area. So I skipped some policy, recent policy on the ecosystem restoration project, especially in the urban area. but we now we are promoting some this kind of mitigation policy to restore the degraded urban ecosystem from that kind of degraded area to more natural and some new more natural areas. And I heard that and in this year the weather condition was so good. And air quality was so good in Korea and in Seoul area. So my friends who are working in the park, large park, they are suffering from too many people. Maybe all of the people that like to visit, go outside and enjoying sunshine and enjoying good weather, and yes, yeah. So I feel it when you feel it, the importance of green spaces, especially in the urban area.
Thank you. Just to give a little bit of a background, the small particles, PM 2.5 is a big issue in Seoul, in Korea, and also in China and some parts of Japan. So I was living in Seoul for some time back in 2018.
Yes.
And it's a serious, real problem. I thought it's a bit exaggerated, but this air pollution, people are also watching on the mobile phone, where are the dangerous, days and places. So I think that air pollution matter is a real threat in the daily life. And
yes, it was last year when you stayed in Korea. So based on the last year's data, actually I joined the project on the air quality monitoring, and I think about the responding technologies. But actually this year we failed, which means the average air quality was so good. So yes, I actually now we are broadcasting on YouTube, so I cannot speak. I cannot say the reason. But yes, but I can say the many some pollution points and pollution industries are located in the western area of Korea, and but in this year we don't have that kind of problem. So yes, that is a good. It's weird, but good points of pandemic. I don't know.
Yeah, well, silver line of the clouds, I think. Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask Dr. Miyake to comment on the changes before pre-COVID-19 and post during the COVID-19. Maybe other speakers, Dr. Shimpo, could also comment briefly of the changes in demands for the urban agriculture lands maybe afterwards, but I'll ask Dr. Miyake to comment on this point as well, because we have been doing a bit of an interview as well.
Okay, so let me talk about the impact of COVID-19 on some sale on the organic food. And Marianne mentioned that there's a shift of demand in local food, and the demand on local food actually increases. And in Japan, some supermarket chains said they had an increase of demand on the organic food and organic vegetables, especially the root crops, because consumers don't have to go to the supermarket so often because they can store these potatoes and carrots. And for the same reason, they have the increase of the sale of the frozen vegetables, frozen organic vegetables. So they have some, stock of these kind of things, so they can sell these products quickly. So that was the reaction the supermarket chains got with the COVID-19. And then probably we can wonder, what kind of crops the gardeners are planting to prepare for the winter under the COVID, so that we can have better idea about the consumers, and probably it can partially answer the question raised by the Marianne to think about the sustenance of the people's demand on the local food. So that's one story from Japan. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Shimpo, maybe you could comment, or Dr. Takatori-san, maybe. It's a little bit difficult to do with the remote discussions, but feel free to unmute and please join the discussion. Soga-san as well.
And from me, I have read some news articles, and also I have some acquaintance who is working for rental garden company, and they say the demand for rental garden or allotment gardens is significantly increasing, especially in from March. So in April, we had a state of emergency, so people couldn't go out and no one could apply for the allotment gardens. But in March and in June, there was an obvious increase in application for example, one company which owns allotment gardens, and it was more than 200 application in 1 month comparing to usual situation. So it seems people are now having more interest in gardening. And also I heard the books for gardening, home gardening is really in good situation in terms of selling. So it seems home gardening is also getting popular compared to former situation, I guess. Soga sensei, Takatori sensei, do you have any information?
Thanks. So in the meantime, this is like, I'm sorry, I'm not, I can share it, but this is like during the COVID period, I was somehow in the forest, and they all say, you know, please avoid going out. But it was actually quite interesting that we had many residents actually in the mountains. So don't ask me why I could take these photos, but it was quite interesting that you see everywhere that please don't go out to the mountains. But if you're there, you see a lot of climbers in the green areas. And in some, I think in Germany, for example, there was quite strict lockdowns, but actually you were allowed to go out to the green areas with your limited numbers, with family members, and etc. So, and in case of Japan, this was a more, in my understanding, self-regulatory request to the citizens. So there was no real legal power, but actually they were like a self-controlled restriction or request from the official body that they would really appreciate that you would not go out in a crowded place. So we actually also have a bit of a data, what actually the numbers of the people who visited these semi-urban mountain areas, and there was not a big surge, but increase in numbers. So I think there were certain demands during these periods that people really wanted to go out and refresh, and there are certain already articles coming out that actually the numbers increased and so on. But are there any comments from other speakers? Yeah. Takatori sensei, are you
in pandemic times?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, everyone. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, was it you, Marianne? Or
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so in the first lockdown, the federal government locked the federal historical gardens in Vienna. And then there was a big uproar from medical experts, and they said you cannot lock the green spaces because particularly in urban areas where there is densely population, health issues are very important. And we have already heard one of the presenters referred to the psychological effects of being outside, and that it's so important to be outside also for the physical and psychological health. So we have a second lockdown now, and there even in the curfew times in the night, you're allowed to go out for psychological and physical health reasons and access green areas. So we definitely have learned that access to green land is very important in pandemic situations.
Thank you. Maybe directly linked to Dr. Soga, can you, revisit the presentation you just made on the impact to the health on this point?
I think the importance of nature experiences has changed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe the impacts of nature experiences on health has increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. But yeah, I don't have data set, but I think so.
Thank you. Yours was before the COVID-19, I think, the data you shown us was 2019.
No, this year.
Oh, this year, okay.
Yeah, I've detected very strong positive association between window view, nature view from windows and mental health. But I think these positive effects is especially evident during this year because the society is under extreme stress and uncertainty. Can you understand what I said?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, understand. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I add?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I say?
Yeah, please, Dr. Song, please. Yeah.
Did you finish? Based on Professor Soga's presentation, he mentioned about biophobia. So I really agree with that. Actually, in Korea, we changed. So before, we insist that we should contact some bugs and some animals and birds, whatever, even in the city. But we cannot say that anymore. So people would like to enjoy the natural area and natural environment, but at the same time, they'd like to clearly separate from that kind of context. So I feel it. So that is why in the wildlife management plan, in the national plan, they'd like to include how to deal with that kind of wildlife management in the city. I mean, so I feel that people wanted to enjoy the natural environment, but they, in my opinion, they imagine that it's kind of zoo or it's kind of botanic garden, but they like to enjoy that kind of living things, ikimono, but they wanted to be separate in the name of safety. Yes, how about that? I understand in the name of the biophobia in the
Also, I had a question, Dr. Son. You mentioned that the wild pork or the inoshishi or
Yes.
this, it's in years are becoming an issue
Yeah.
also in Korea. So this is like an environment ecosystem disservice actually.
Yes.
Is it related to the fact that the rural areas are depopulated and you don't have the buffer to the urban areas, or what are the reasoning of
I
these
think yes.
these
The reason
management?
reason is quite similar with Japan. So rural area, no people, and the hunting people are having the aging and decreasing, and the in the because of a warm winter, the baby pork cannot die. And but from the last year, the ASF or I cannot ASF was as 病気なんですけれども ASF the disease with the pork is spread from European and through the China, and that disease came from the North Korea. So from the end of last year to this year, now we are still invest a lot of the financial financial monies to prevent that kind of wildlife walks from the North Korea to prevent that kind of wildlife. So yes, so that is kind of disease. So actually, that was not actually related with the COVID-19, but as you know, the people said COVID-19 is more severe by through some bats and some yes. So yes, that is part of that. That is part of it. Yeah. Sorry.
And also, which ministry is actually supporting not only these wildlife management things, but generally for your presentation, is it Ministry of Environment
Ministry of
or is it
Environment.
Ministry of Agriculture that is?
Yes.
Or is this
Ministry of Environment? Yes.
Would be supporting these part of your smart green agricultural.
Smart green city and wildlife management.
They're usually with the Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah, because we have two ministries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Ministry of Agriculture was the main part of that kind of wildlife management damage, wildlife damage, because all of the damages most of them is happened in the agricultural area. But these days, that kind of big pork wildlife is emerging in the city area. So we'd like to and national parks. National parks is one of the biggest management area of Ministry of Environment. So yes.
Okay, thank you. I have maybe I would like to ask Dr. Takatori for a comment that, or Dr. Shimpo for that matter, on the Japanese specific issue, that so-called the Reiwa Yonen issue, or the issue that the urban farmlands would face, that this has been an ongoing issue for a long time, but the owners of the lands would probably need to, again, make decisions. This has been ongoing, but now has been focused that in 2 years' time, a lot of owners would probably need to think about whether they would continue these urban farming practices or not. From your perspective, what do you see? How do you perceive these issues? Maybe Dr. Takatori, you haven't spoken so far, so.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, as you say, the especially the productive grain problem is very important. 生産緑地の問題があって、in the Tokyo, the farmers will have a very actively do the urban agricultural activities, such as the doing their community gardens. But in the Kita Nagoya city, the farmers don't so willing to do the urban agriculture because they are very aged, and also there are very few successors. So the place to place, the problem is very different. So but recently JA have many events to promote the urban agriculture in the nationwide to for the not only the farmers but also the NPO or the new business authorities joins the urban agriculture, and and also the productive grain could be lent according to the division of the law. So it is a many potential for the urban farmland in to do their many business of the urban agriculture. So I am now talking with the Kita Nagoya City Municipality to how to promote the urban agriculture with not only the farmers but also the many other business partners. So it is one of their movement, I think. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't give maybe the full background for Marianne and Dr. Son, that the tax system basically changes in 2 years' time. And so the owners would probably need to really think carefully how they would use these lands, whether to convert it into residential use or so on and so forth, which has already happened in the past, but it's becoming a rather urgent matter in 2 years period, with a 2 years period of time. Dr. Shimpo, maybe you could also comment on this point.
Yeah, I agree with Takatori sensei in that the situation is different between places because usually farmers can get information on new system on renting their land just from municipality. So how municipality show the new system and how they persuade or give explain what kind of possibility the landowners have. This kind of thing affects the area's farmers' intention a lot, I think. So, and now municipalities can have green space plan, 緑の基本計画, including farmland. Formerly, the green space plan didn't have farmland as a part of green areas, but now municipalities can include such farmlands. And then how, again, the municipality can include the farmlands into the plan. This also affects the farmers, I think. Yeah, this is my comment.
Maybe Marianne or Dr. Son, it's a very different situation, so maybe it's a little bit difficult to comment, but generally, I think the ownership is more stable if in the system, legal system, and so on for urban agriculture. Maybe you can comment in your context, Korea or Austria.
All of the most of the presenters introduced, especially from the Japanese professors introduced the Japanese cases, and from my experience, that was very interesting because I'd like to give one example. years ago, we'd like to make the ecological park, and one of the a part of the ecological park was planned as an urban agriculture area. So but finally the government denied our plan, because of the ownership. So that is public area, but if we manage as urban agriculture area, maybe the fruit and vegetables are not go to the public. It is go to the private sector, right? So why this kind of public area should be used for the determined people? So that is why the government says. So we, especially in it's like a Seoul area, we understand the importance of agriculture, urban agriculture. So, but we cannot find the land. Yeah, we cannot find the land. And from the Professor Marianne, so I know the Ostrom's design principles, and based on your from your research results is very interesting. So maybe if you find the land, and at least if we'd like to use some private land, we should keep we can use the kind of design principles. So yeah, that is my comment. And Korea in Seoul's situation, there are several private park was used in urban agriculture, but public land, it is not easy to use in the purpose of agriculture, urban agriculture. So how, yes.
Mhm. I think ownership is really an interesting issue. Is it private ownership? Is it public land? Is it common land? And I think there are differences between the countries in these legal traditions. In Austria, there's another legal regulation that is very important. It's zoning and spatial planning. So you might own the land, so privately own agricultural land, but you are not allowed to convert it to building areas. So in Vienna, we have huge pressure and huge demand for residential areas. Vienna is a growing city. And so if you have a farmer, you own the land, but you cannot just sell it to investors if it's only if the zoning is focusing on agricultural land, because then it can be only used as agricultural area. Nevertheless, the biggest loss rate of agricultural land we have in Vienna, in all provincial states. The number or the share of land dedicated to agriculture is lowest in Vienna. And year by year, we lose a big share of this small amount of land on agriculture. So also here, despite really strong zoning, we're losing agricultural land. And yeah, there are now in different districts of Vienna, population is organizing because they want to keep the land because it also has a recreational value. And this is kind of a political struggle between housing and agricultural land. Both is important, and it's not easy to deal with this conflict.
Thank you. Thank you. It's quite interesting that to know that the situation in Vienna. Now, I would like to gradually wrap up this discussion session, and I'm very thankful for all the participants. Maybe if you can just give a brief comment at the end individually, or if you still have questions and discussion points, you're most welcome to do so. But let's go by the presentation, the flow of the presentation. Dr. Son, if you have the last maybe comments or remarks, and thank you for participating remotely from Seoul. Yeah.
Again, I appreciate for your invitation. Actually, yes, I have many contents on some recent recent technology, not recent technique development on green infrastructure in Korea. So I hope another chance to discuss and share our efforts with you, because yes, these days in Korea, like Japan, we are talking about the importance of green infrastructure in not only in urban area but also in the national scale again. So I'd like to share. I'd like to meet you another chance, and thank you for today.
Yeah, we as you may already know, but there will be a national green infrastructure online.
Yes.
Some kind of meeting this weekend, and also I'm hoping to have a face-to-face meeting also with Marianne if the situation in Europe or in Asia settle down. We keep saying we'll have a face-to-face meeting, but actually it's taking much longer. But I hope someday next year these will be made realized. Dr. Shimpo.
はい。
すみません。最後にコメントがあれば、if you have any final remarks.
Okay. So far, urban gardening is not, urban gardens are not regarded as important or main green infrastructure, I think, but gradually the situation is changing. And today's discussion is very broad, so not only urban gardening, but also there are many important green spaces. But I hope urban gardens such as allotment gardens or community gardens are also will be regarded as one of the sources of green infrastructure. And the role is really, role has variety. So such kind of information should be recognized, and effective spatial planning will be created in many municipalities, I hope. Sorry, my comment is not so organized, but
that's I think you raised a very important point, and sorry, it's my, I think, organization that's but we this time I think you have made a quite important point of this urban Kleingarten and their role in the green infrastructure as well as during the pandemic period. So and I think you're right that a lot of green infrastructure currently focuses a lot on the issues of floods and precipitations, adjustments and regulatory services. So I think that the points you have raised towards the end of your presentation would be also integrated into further discussions. Thank you. Dr. Takatori.
Can I have a brief comment of the pandemic influence?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is the Fukuoka city, and I have an interview to the manager of the urban agricultural park here, Kanatake no Sato Park, and this is the park, and this is a brief result, and the users of the park, and this year and in the last year, as you see, the number of users is increasing than the last year. So this is only the very small result, but as Professor Shimpo and Professor Marianne said, in the COVID-19 situation, the citizens have more interest into the activities of the urban agriculture and also another activities in the green spaces. So how to make the planning, spatial planning for the new normal or the new COVID-19 situation is very important in not only the Fukuoka, but also the many other world countries. So I'm very interested to collaborate and to have a discussion for, with you and in the future. So thank you very much for the, joining this very nice seminar, and I'm very glad to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you for the state-of-the-art results of your research. Thank you. Dr. Soga.
I'd like to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic as my final comment. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought about many serious health, social, and economic consequences, but in the context of human-nature interactions, I think this pandemic is very positive because there are many studies that show that people's interest in nature and actual use of nature have increased during the pandemic. So I think this is a great opportunity to reconnect people with nature, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for your positive note. Dr. Uchiyama-san or Miyake-san, ここに来て喋ってください。Thank you.
Yeah, related to the Dr. Soga's comment, I'd like to emphasize on the socioeconomic gap issues, because I think socioeconomic gap might be one big issue, and it's getting more serious during the spread of COVID-19. For example, our survey showed that respondents with higher household income tend to access and use the green areas. So considering such situation, we need to secure the access and the use of green areas of citizens with different socioeconomic backgrounds, I think. So in other occasion, I'd like to discuss about this matter. Thank you. For the final remark, I guess for academia, I guess there are many kinds of literature in the urban agriculture, and another chunk of literature in the green infrastructure. So I think we need more connection to understand probably the factor to enhance the synergy between these two things, so that we can use the green infrastructure better in terms of food supply and food production. And that's my final regards, final comment.
Okay, thank you. Now, Marianne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity of exchanging across countries on green infrastructure and productive use, agricultural used green infrastructure. So I learned a lot from perspectives. I have been to Narima quite some time ago, hope to see it again. I've never been to Korea, but I read a lot about interesting experiences from there. So I hope that in future there will be the possibility to come together face to face and also exchange on the governance, because I think the most important question for the future is how can we make sure to maintain these areas and sustainably manage these areas also for future generations, because if these areas are lost to residential areas, they are lost forever. So I'm curious to learn about the governance of productive green infrastructure in different cities, in different countries. And I'm sure that we can learn a lot here in Austria from experiences in other parts, like in Japan or in Korea and many other countries. Thank you for this opportunity of exchange today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you also for those who are listening and watching the YouTube and we received some comments as well. I couldn't take all them up here, but we hope that we'll also organize a face-to-face meeting next year, which will be announced per email or on the website. And I hope some of you will be able to join physically next year. And also, I would like to announce that this presentation today will be available in the archive of the YouTube. So we need to edit a little bit, but then we'll make these available. And thank you all for participating, and also thank you for keeping your time. And with this, I would like to end this international workshop. Okay, I should think. Okay, thank you, and bye-bye. Marianne, thank you for waking up very early in the morning. And
yeah, it was a pleasure being here. Thank you for organizing it.
Yeah.